It's time for Random Rambling Wednesdays.
Oh, that's right.
I am so proud that I was able to say that and not stumble or get my R's and W's mixed up.
Alliteration is hard. It can be.
Words.
I guess that's alliteration.
Words are hard.
So rambling.
I find numbers to be more difficult, though.
Yeah. I won't mess with no numbers, man.
Numbers and I don't get along. Math was never my strong suit. I'm Justin.
Oh, and I'm JP.
And we are the Podcasting Dead. As you might be able to deduce from the name, we typically talk a lot about The Walking Dead, which we start back our Monday Walking Dead podcast this coming Monday. I'm super excited. Hopefully JP is too. Tomorrow we'll have a Walking Dead podcast out about the comic. We we are excited about that. We were going to do that today, but things didn't quite work out. So we'll have that for you first thing in the morning. But this is just the one time of the week where we don't have any kind of subject in mind. We just ramble for a little while. And those who don't, mind it, stick around and take part.
Do mind it, Steer away.
You said if you do mind it, steer away?
If you do mind it, just steer, just click that button, turn that dial, change the channel.
I like the attitude.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about freedom of choice,
If you like I would describe our podcast more as a style of, I think what we were going for was just people conversating, not so much trying to be super formatic or anything like that. So if you like listening to two idiots like at bars, hit the subscribe button. If you like The Walking Dead, hit the subscribe button. If you don't like us, then it's okay. Thank goodness there are thousands of other channels to go find.
There's a lot of stuff, isn't there?
Let's get into it. So we don't really know what we're talking about today. That was just so great. JP came in and I was like, what are we talking about today? JP's like, I don't know. And I said, I guess that's a good thing, is that we don't do this podcast with any subject in mind. They just appear as the conversation progresses. But so JP, what's new with you, man? What you been doing?
Man, I didn't sleep well last night. That much I can tell you. I don't know why.
Have your lady friend over again?
I might have. It might be the Tombstone pizza I ate. I don't know. Maybe that just how sometimes you eat something. Well, it wasn't really late at night, though. I don't know, man.
Being that we get up so early, a lot of times I find I need to have dinner by like 5 or 6, because if I eat past 7, I'm going to wake up the next morning feeling like crap. Mm-hmm. And that was the case. We had my parents over for dinner last night, and I made pork chops. And we didn't eat until like 7:30, closer to 8, and I feel it this morning.
I was probably eating around 9. I know the State of the Union was on. I fell asleep during that.
Is that a nod to what you thought about it, or were you just tired?
No, I was tired, but no, I mean, just the president's speeches are way better when he's just kind of shooting from the hip, when he's like, yelling at reporters. When it's one of these scripted speeches, I mean, it's,
And they have speech writers for that, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I've always thought, I hate that idea, because, I mean, we, like with any problem, I'm not talking about Donald Trump, I'm talking about a president in general, you elected them because you believe in them. And then, which, I mean, it is crazy to think that, like, with a president, like, most of their campaign is all faked anyway. A lot of it's written by other people.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because they're really just a puppet on a hand, you know what I mean?
But like I said, just, a lot of times if he's being interviewed or if he's doing a press conference,
you like wild and untamed Donald.
Yeah, he's just shooting from the hip, and, it's a lot better. But I mean, like I said, it wasn't a bad speech. It was just, it was a speech, and speeches are generally boring.
That's why I quit going to preaching, because when people go into like long speeches and stuff, I tend to like doze off.
Well, man, these new like hipper like youth oriented churches, man, it's a show. I mean, they put on a show. It almost, part of it reminds you of a rave, and then they do the
Jesus.
Yeah, man, it's
love
wild.
you, Jesus.
You go to some of these newer churches, they are really, I mean, they're having to up the ante, because I mean, people aren't going to go and just feel obligated to sit through something totally boring on a Sunday morning. I mean,
well, I mean, I've never been a big. I don't really go to church that often. I know that it's not really my thing, and my parents do, and they went to this New Age church, right? And my dad's like, "Oh, you'd love it," My dad. Keep in mind, my dad's a metalhead. I mean, I grew up on things like Metallica, Megadeth, things like that, and he's like, "You'd love it. They play like rock music, whatever." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Well, I'll go for them. They want me to go." This was a while back. And I went, and I don't know if the spirit of Jesus was inside of him and changing his perception of the music he was hearing, but there was nothing rockish. And then like we're talking, and the guy that's leading the whole thing's like, your dad tells me that you play guitar. And I'm like, yeah, I play a little bit. And he's like, we'd love to talk about getting you in the band. I'm like, dude, we don't play the same kind of music. Like, you guys are all playing in standard tuning. I'm dropped down like 2 steps, and you would kick me out if you.
But that's their recruitment tactic, though, man. Like, our mutual friend Crowder, he in high school, we had another buddy just wailed on the guitar, and he invited him just, to like the church band room. He's just like, yeah, man, they got a good setup. We'll just jam for a little while, whatever.
That's how they get you.
And he got him in there, and it was like a full-on, like, you
join our band, or Jesus will not say that's wrong.
But one of my favorite Hank Hill quotes. Bobby is like getting into this, like a Jesus rock group, whatever. Not like the actual band, but he's just hanging out with that clique. And Hank says to the Christian youth leader who has the band, he's like, "You're not making Jesus better. You're making rock and roll worse."
Oh,
and
man,
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I've heard like Skillet's. I think that they're supposed to be more of a Christian rock band, but they don't really sing about. Well, I mean, I guess they do sometimes sing about Jesus, but like that's a Christian rock group I can get into. I've just never been into contemporary music. You know what I mean? Like contemporary, like what is it? I can't even really think of the names of any of them. But I had a friend growing up when we were in church that was really into that stuff, and like I just was not feeling it. I mean, I was listening. I mean, by the time I was in high school, I was listening to more like death metal and just stuff that would not fly in a church. Not like it was Satanist or anything, but just very close. A small conservative town. It would have been like, this is the devil's music. Yeah, man, and there's some great old spirituals like Johnny Cash, Ray Charles. Oh, I love Johnny Cash gospel songs. Man. Yeah, I mean they did some some really good gospel stuff back in the day, but. Yeah, just this like screamo Christian stuff. I don't even know what you would describe it. Which is an old hymnal. It's not. I mean, Johnny Cash, and they did it, but it wasn't. Johnny Cash didn't write it. But one of my favorite game of all time, which is slowly now. It's funny, not to get into a long tangent about video games. My favorite video game of all time was Resident Evil 2, and then BioShock Infinite came out, and that became my favorite game of all time. JP, you wouldn't. I know you don't play video games, but I think that you would have really enjoyed the story because it's got to do with multiple dimensions and like time traveling paradoxes and stuff like that. So it had a really fascinating story, and that was my favorite game. And now that the Resident Evil 2 remake is out, that's becoming my favorite game. But where I'm going with that was in BioShock Infinite. It basically like the bad guy was the leader of this fanatical. I don't want to call them a cult per se, but it was a big religious movement. They figured out through physics how to make a landmass float. So they just said, F you, Earth, and they just floated up in the sky and had their own Christian nation. And he's like a preacher, Father Comstock. And on that soundtrack, they actually had the girl that voices Elizabeth do her own cover of May the Circle Be Unbroken. Mm-hmm. And it's real slow. Oh, my God, it's beautiful. I have to show you that sometime. Like, it's so haunting. Like her, because she's been in prison for 18 years, and like it's so good. Like I just thought about it when we talk about hymnals. Like I know there was a long way to get to it, but that game has a cover of May the Circle Be Unbroken, which I also know we heard Johnny Cash sing, and her version's really slowed down and just sounds, like sung with pain. It's so good. If you've never listened to that, look up BioShock Infinite, May the Circle Be Unbroken. You're welcome. That's wild, man. Like if all the Christians just went and formed their own nation, just like took over Australia, and that was just like a Christian nation. Yeah. Well, it's like what they did too, and this is supposed to be in like 1912, I believe. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, the story takes place in 1912, which it actually takes place all over the timeline. But I think they floated up in like the turn of the century, like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Mm-hmm. Just learned like they had these twins that were actually the same person. I'm telling you, it's a great story, but they basically just used physics and made a city float and was just like, peace out, Earth. We're done with your barbaric, sacrilegious ways. We're going to go live in the sky and have our own religion. I'm telling you, man, if all the Christians did get their own continent, it would be a bloodbath just because all those different denominations and, some are hardcore, some are liberal. Southern Baptists would be fighting the contemporaries. Yeah, Protestants would be fighting girls that actually don't wear dresses.
I know
is it Protestant? Whichever one is. Maybe not
Protestant covers anyone who's not Catholic, basically.
Oh, what is? See, it shows you how little I know about the dominant. Which one is it that is very old school? They've got one around here. Actually, my buddy's buried at a church where like the women have to wear dresses and they're very, very old school. What is that called? I
think it's either Pentecostal or Episcopalian.
I think it's Pentecostal.
But yeah, like I mean, women. It's not just church, man. Like. Women aren't allowed to wear pants. That's considered a male thing. And I mean, I went to school.
Men can't have long hair?
Probably. But I went to school with a lot of Pentecostals, assuming we're getting the denomination right. I mean, yeah, like the girls would wear like denim skirts every day. They'd be down to their ankles. Well, sometimes in the summer they'd be a little shorter. But
the P confused me. Yeah, Pentecostal. You're right. Huh?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking it's Pentecostal.
Because Protestant, is anything is religion is Christianity, but without the Catholic aspect.
Yeah. When because before all it was the Catholics, and Martin Luther nailed that 95 Thesis on the door, and Lutherans became the first Protestants. I mean, if you don't want to, unless you want to count like the Gnostics, like way, way, way earlier. But
that's a school too, man. I just caught up with Vikings. Like I just watched the season finale of the last season that just came out a couple of weeks ago, and everybody and it really is like it's Christians, which they're Catholics, but it's the Christians versus like the pagans, basically.
Yeah.
Vikings. It's just like the rise of Christianity, I guess. But in that, everybody's Catholic. The Christians are Catholic. They're not really like your modern day Christians. They're Catholic. They all pray to the Mother Mary.
The early Catholic Church was like the mafia, dude. I mean, it's a heavy read, but Julian Gore Vidal wrote it. It's about like at this point the Roman Empire split in two, and the Catholic Church is pretty much running everything. But this dude Julian, he wants to get back to the pagan ways. And he's actually like a great, great leader, but just his beef with the Catholic Church, they eventually assassinate him. And the whole novel, the whole historical novel is told these like two Roman philosophers or something like that are just exchanging letters because this one dude's trying to write a book, the account of Julian. But now the Catholic Church whacked him because he was like, basically, they took all the pagan temples and just turned them into Catholic churches, and he's just like, "Fuck y'all, we taking ours back."
Oh, and I should have said at the beginning of this, this is uncensored. This is the one podcast of the week where we don't hold back with language and.
Right.
This is the anything goes. I feel bad. I knew I was forgetting something in the beginning. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you do have kids listening, because some people have commented and been like, I love watching this listen to this while my kids play or whatever. So you just make sure your kids can't hear.
Sooner or later, your kids are going to hear the F word. I mean, just, that's just what it is. But
my parents cussed around me growing up. But number one, I couldn't cuss. You know what I mean? Like they cussed.
Same here,
I couldn't, or I'd get my, it'd be
as I say, not as I say.
Right. But, I never heard either one of my parents. I don't know that I've ever heard my mom say the F word. I started hearing my dad say the F word when I started working with him as an electrician, because I guess then you're at work and you can't really censor yourself as much. He's used to, if he's up there pulling a long run of wire through some pipes, I mean, he's used to being like, oh, fuck, or if he cuts his hand or something. So that's when but my parents.
Yeah, it's funny, man.
But they're going to hear cuss words. It's going to happen.
These people up the road, they were yelling, just really getting into it. And I hear, this is like a block away, I'll kill your motherfucking ass. And I'm just thinking, I've heard my mom say that so many times when she's been
to
pissed
you?
Off. No, not to me, but in certain altercations, I was like, what the fuck is my mom doing up the road? What's going on here? But it wasn't.
Your mom knew what you were doing.
Yeah. I'll kill your motherfucking ass.
She knew why you stepped outside.
But nah, man, like it's Bill Maher. I'm not the biggest fan anymore, but he said when it comes to churches, I mean, it's way easier than just bulldozing and building your own church. Just switch out the sign on the front door.
Yeah, I used to find some common ground with Bill Maher, but these days, man, once he got up on his comic book platform, that's when I was like, man, go eat shit, because he basically is like. Saying, like, you said you didn't see that, right?
Yeah, no, I've seen that.
Where he's, talking about,
I don't
like,
watch real time.
At one point, men decided that they were going to stop growing up, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, fuck you, man. I'm a fucking man. Like, I pay my bills. I take care of my house. I'm getting ready to have a kid. I've got a steady job. I feel like they're like, if you're a man and you want to read comics, I mean, that's not what defines you as a man. You know what I mean? Like, you're a man by your actions. Like, I protect my house. I provide for my house. I take care of my bills. Nobody supports me. I pay for everything myself. I'm a man. If I want to get home from work and read comics, you're going to sit down and watch the Avengers movie and love it. So what's wrong with me reading the source material?
Well, I mean, as far as Bill Maher, he hates the movies, the comics, all that stuff. But it's funny because
he's just a bitter old bastard.
Yeah, but he never really grew up himself. I mean, he never settled down with a wife or a kid or anything. He's just still a playboy out there, smoking weed and having sex with models and
making
all that
very
stuff,
misguided documentaries. Like religiousness.
I like to.
Have you looked up how factually incorrect that documentary is, though?
I don't know.
Religiousness. Look it up. Like, where he talks about how Christianity is a lot. And I mean, I'm not defending. Like I said, I don't go to church that much, but he's like Christianity, and he tells about this Egyptian god and how similar it is to Christianity. That's completely false. Like
I've heard there's a lot of parallels.
They have come out and said that that is a common. That's just like people saying. I'm trying to think of a common. It's one of those common misconceptions. Like, people think that because it's been spread. Not that there wasn't a Horus, and I don't know Egyptian past, but I have watched several. Like on History Channel, I watched a thing. So if I'm wrong, then fine. But the History Channel is where I got this, where they had someone sit down and say, no, that's where a lot of common misconception comes in. Like they say he had this son to a virgin mother, and how similar these stories are, and they're not that similar. Like, they did have a god Horus and all of that, but the story does not mirror Christianity the way that Bill Maher said it did. It's just Bill Maher, and that's what I'm saying. Like, Bill Maher tries to act like he's all righteous and all of this, like he was talking about that kid that was in the Indian's face, but then he turns around and basically it's like, I believe in freedom of expression as long as you don't believe in something I don't like. And I just get sick of that, man. That's why I hate people. I hate watching programs like that, because you play this righteous, like, oh, I'm so accepting of cultures and peoples, unless I don't like what you believe in. Like, no, don't worry. You're either accepting of other people or you're not.
Yeah, man. I watched him for years. I've actually seen him live, but he, I don't know, man. It got a little too.
He's getting very bitter as he gets older too.
I don't even know how to explain. I know it was one episode I watched. He was kind of ragging on police and stuff, and I know police brutality exists, and it's like any other thing. There's good cops, there's bad cops, just like there's good doctors and bad doctors.
Right.
But I don't know, man.
I agree. I mean, well, and I think it's harder for us because we live in a small town. So when you live in a small town, you know some of the police, and not in like you're a snitch way. It's somebody you grew up with. Oh, I hunted with this guy. Like, I know a guy that I hunted with my whole life. He's in the deputy's office, and actually he got an award not too long ago because there was a shooting at this. It's not a club. It was like a VFW, and they were having this party, and these people got to shooting. And the guy with the gun, when he was shooting, this cop that I know shot him and was actually accurate enough he didn't want to kill him, so he shot him in the leg, wounded him. The guy survived. They arrested him. No one else got hurt. Yeah. And he got an award for that, which was, awesome. But cops. So, you do kind of have like not 100, because I mean, police brutality pisses me off to no means, because it's kind of like an abusive parent. Like, these are the ones you're supposed to be protected by, the ones that are supposed to have your back. And when you see videos of them abusing their power, it makes me livid. But the fact is, not like you said, not every cop is like that. And living in a small town, like, we know a sheriff that comes by every Friday to the radio station and does dumb criminal news with us. And you and I have said many times, like, that's just a good dude. Like, he's just a fun, nice, passionate guy. He's all about connecting with the community, and wants to, whenever there's police brutality, he wants to buckle down and get into like these like poverty-stricken neighborhoods and make sure they know, like, we're not here to get you, like, we want to be here for you. So, we've seen good cops, but we've also never been on the receiving end of bad cops per se. So, I know that we can't speak from someone who's been profiled or abused, but I get what you're saying. When I saw his police thing, I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like that, I'm pretty sure when Bill Maher does shows, police are what guide him in and guard his show and shit. You know what I mean? But anyways, it's not like a long, like, oh, if you don't, no, I agree. Police brutality pisses me off to no means. I watch those videos and I have to stop halfway through because I'm like, man, these guys.
Right.
I mean, like I said, it just feels, it's like betrayal. It's like, these are my tax dollars pay for these people to protect us. and keep us safe, not to go beat some guy up because he was drunk at a bar, you know what I mean, and had the audacity to step outside for a second. I mean, you know, it pisses me off too.
Yeah. And then the whole like Bill Maher, Howard Stern beef.
If he beefed with Howard Stern, you should know JP is no longer going to be a friend of you.
Well, and
JP
I don't really
loves
keep up
Howard
with
Stern.
Howard that much anymore either. But no, that goes way back to like when what was it? ABC kicked him off because of his 9/11 comments,
Yeah.
which Howard, I kind of thought he would stick up for him a little bit more, but no, he grilled him pretty good.
Wasn't that when he said we deserved it?
No, he didn't say we deserved it. He said that it's hard to call the terrorists cowards because in a way, I mean, we're dropping bombs from like 100 miles away. So he was saying like in a way we're more
I get where you're
cowards by
going
dropping
because
bombs instead of
we stay
flying.
safe in one area and throw bombs. They sacrifice their lives.
Yeah,
is what he's
exactly.
trying to say.
That was his point. I mean, this is right after 9/11 happened, so it's
Right.
a moronic thing.
Really
to say.
stupid to
Yeah,
say.
I mean, if you're
Yeah.
in the media, but that was his whole point.
See, that's something, man. I guess because of growing up, you know, that's like the one thing. That's something that we have is I'll never forget 9/11. You know,
Right.
I'll never forget just all of it. Like when I was in school and they were like, turn the TVs on, a plane's crashed into the trade center, and you know, and just how horrible it was. So I mean, to say something like that close to such a terrible event was just a bad judgment call.
Yeah,
and
it was.
too, and it's like, I mean, he's arguing philosophy, really, is what he's doing. The philosophy of the situation, strip down the countries and all of that. And I get what he's trying to say. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I get philosophically where he's trying to go with that. But that was so stupid. I would never say that because, like I said, I just remember being that young and still understanding, you know, because I was ADD as a kid. So things didn't sink into my brain the way they should have all the time. And it's like I still remember how terrible, you know what I mean, how heartbreaking of an event that was, and watching people cry over people they didn't know, and it just was awful. So to get on TV and say something like that close was just stupid on his part.
Yeah, I mean, the show is called Politically Incorrect.
Right.
At the end of the day, you got to remember, I mean, you know, you're going to piss a lot of people off, but you know who did basically say we deserved it, and this was years later.
Who?
You'll never guess. Tony Bennett. The old crooner.
Really?
Yeah, this is a World War II veteran. He was on Howard Stern, and they were just talking about he was doing that duets album. He did like a duet with Lady Gaga with a bunch of Korean artists, and he just starts getting into it, and he's like, "Well, we bombed them first." He's basically saying how we've manipulated the Middle East like for decades, just putting
I've
this one
read
in
some
power,
stuff
putting
on
that
that,
one
yeah.
in power. I mean.
We just need to leave it alone. You know.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things.
It's as far
where,
as probably what he thinks, right? Like we need to just
because
stay out of it.
We put Saddam in power to go to war with Iran.
We trained Osama bin Laden.
So yeah, that was basically his point that we've had our dick in the Middle East stirring the pot for so long.
Philosophically, I can understand where he's coming from. Not saying I agree, but I can understand. But the people in those towers didn't deserve that. You know what I mean? The people on those planes didn't deserve that. You know,
basically,
when you make a statement that broad, we deserved it. You know, you need to.
Which he didn't. He didn't say those words.
Okay, I was gonna say if you say that, it's like no, those people didn't deserve that. They were just going to work.
He basically just said, we bombed them first. It's basically like
saying our government made it happen, more or less.
You beat the Georgia Bulldog, you're going to feel the Bulldog bite. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean,
yeah, that's.
Nah, man. I mean, it's like Immortal Technique has a great lyric. You fucked the Middle East and gave birth to a demon. You know, I mean, I've
read some stuff where we've definitely been not so innocent. Well, it's just like Vietnam. I watched a documentary on that where it showed how we played both sides for a while. Like one moment we're supporting the North and we're like, and then the South gets a leader and that we like, and we're like jumping over to him. Like we're kind of like that friend that manipulates you into fighting. Like, like you're sitting there and you're like, I'm coming to you going, yo, this guy, Johnny said you was a bitch. And then I'm running to Johnny going, Johnny, I got your back. And then I'm coming back to you going, I got your back. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of just playing both sides to the point.
We've got
that's a terrible way to describe how it happened.
We want to disarm Iran and all this stuff. I mean, the Reagan administration was selling missiles to Iran and taking the money and funding the Contra down in South
Iran
America
Contra scandal.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, and like I said, my example of JP fighting somebody was a terrible terrible example for the Vietnam War. I mean, it was a terrible war. It was awful. But I'm just saying, like, with the documentary I watched, it seemed like we were playing both sides, and really just, I don't know, man. It's the thing about government. That's what it's like. We were talking about the other day with our old friend Matty D. Like, that's why it's just hard to like form an opinion on anything, because there's so much that you don't know. You try to come up with an opinion based on the facts you have, but those facts were fed to you by someone that could have an agenda, and so you just never know what is real and what's not.
Yeah, who the bad guys are, who the good guys are.
I always try to say I want to live by, like, if I don't see it, then I'm not going to judge it type thing. But then you can't. Hey, you're only human. I mean, you read these stories or you see these videos, and you can't help but to emotionally pick a side.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm definitely, I mean, as far as mainstream media, I get very little information these days from them. Did you see the? I don't know what I think it was on CNN. We're in Virginia. Our governor, the whole kerfluffle with him. With the blackface, the K. All that
wasn't
stuff.
Me. Okay, it wasn't me, but I'm sorry. No, I don't think it was me.
Right, but did you see on CNN they put they've got the headline for the scandal, and they've got his name, and beside his name they put R for Republican, even though he's a Democrat. Just
really
because if it's a story about a politician being racist. I mean, it's going to be a Republican, whether it's actually one or not. And I mean, yeah, people argue, it was just a little typo, a very convenient typo, just,
Yeah, I don't, like I said, man, and I do keep up with politics to an extent, because I feel like you need to know what's going on in the world around you. But I just try to, not much that I'm going to do, I feel. And of course, there are those that will argue, you got to take a stand. But I mean, like, I want to live my life and be happy. I don't have we don't have long lives. So I want to try to find some joy in it. And the people that I know, not everybody, but the majority of people that I know that stayed just tied into politics, number one, most of them, if not all of them, don't do a damn thing. All they do is bitch on Facebook, and that's it. They don't go to any marches. They don't propose anything. They don't get involved in anything that they could actually do. They don't get in any kind of committees or anything that they could actually go out there and make a change. They just basically get on Facebook and throw their opinion out and say, if you don't agree with me, delete me, screw you.
Right.
And they just are miserable people. I mean, I'm not going to throw any names out, but I have 5 people come to mind right now that I know are always preaching politics on my Facebook that I've known for a long time, and they are miserable people. They truly are some of the most miserable people I know. Like, they're never happy. So I'm just like, man, I'm going to keep up with it and try to, and I'll talk to some people about it. And there are some people I can talk to that have opposing views that are great to talk to. And nothing is more refreshing than to talk to someone with a different political view than yourself, or a different view, period, and be able to have a rash, calm discussion about it. Like, because that's rare. Nothing's more refreshing than that, because you can learn something from each other. But that's not the case 9 out of 10 times. So I'm like, dude, screw it. Life's short, man. I don't feel like making enemies.
It's such like a cult mindset. My little side job I've got, I was talking to 2 ladies, and they're talking about how Virginia introduced...
By side job, he means gigolo.
Well, yeah.
2 ladies at once, JP. Damn.
Hey, brother, what do you
Business
want?
Is good.
165 the other. But anyway... No, like they're talking about, Virginia introduced the bill for a 3rd trimester abortion, and I mean, they are outraged.
Oh, that's all that's been on my Facebook the last. It's just finally starting to die down.
But the thing is, though, I mean, they're so outraged. I mean, it was, largely supported by Democrats, and they vote Democrat, and I'm just like, well, is that going to change the way you vote, since you're so outraged and stuff, and they just kind of get quiet.
Right, because people like Republicans and Democrats both, they stick to their party like it's a freaking sports team, and no matter what they do, wrong or right, they're going to stick with them no matter. That's why when people are like, what are you, conservative or liberal? I'm like, dude, I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, well, I mean, man, a big part of me thinks voting's a waste of time, because much like professional wrestling,
P. Diddy said it in South Park, JP.
The
vote or die, motherfucker.
Predetermined, but no, I mean, I voted Democrat, I voted Republican, I voted Libertarian. I mean, I really try to focus on the individual and what they stand for. But like I said, I think 9 times out of 10 the outcome's predetermined, just like WrestleMania. I mean.
Oh yeah,
I follow it a lot. Like in the past, I followed wrestling. I mean, sometimes you root for the heel, sometimes you root for the baby face, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, man. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's people will stick to their side no matter what, what wrong their side does, and it's like, if we had more people that would, like someone that would just, which sadly they do, but they never get attention. I was gonna say someone that would step out and be like, hey, guess what, liberals and conservatives? I believe this, and this from the liberal side, but I also believe this, and this from the conservative side. And someone could be like, oh, wow, there's someone that kind of connects us. We have some differences, but we have more in common with this guy than we do different. This would probably be the best option to vote, but they don't get the attention. It's just the two-party system, the Democrat or the Republican. They're in the spotlight, and that's where it's been so many times where I've went to the vote, I'm not that old, so I haven't voted, but a couple of times. But when you go to the voting booth, you see these candidates and you just kind of you sigh because you're like, that's who I want to vote for. But you're essentially throwing a vote away because, and if everybody didn't, I know the argument of if everybody didn't think like that, I know. But the fact of the matter is, like this last election, it was coming down between Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. There was no way around it. I mean, no matter who I vote, if I voted libertarian or independent, it didn't matter. One of those two was going to win. So you have to vote for, it's kind of like South Park said, man, why you should always vote. You're always voting between a douche and a turd sandwich. You just got to decide which one is the best of the two. Right.
Well, like I said, I've voted third party.
I don't really like politicians anyways. So.
Right. But
politicians.
I very much feel like 2016, man, if you went third party, it was a total cop-out. I mean, you just didn't want to say you voted for one or the other because there's so much animosity towards both of the candidates, and I just say it's a real pussy move. I mean, if you're that hardcore against X or Y getting elected, fucking vote for X or Y.
Right.
Don't say, well, I voted, but I voted for Jill Stein or
right.
And I'm a third party guy, by the way. Like I said, I've voted libertarian, but I just in certain situations, I think you just got to nut up and pick your poison.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Politics just depress me. Like I don't know, man.
I find it fascinating, man. I love
you're right. I mean, it is fascinating. I guess what I mean is discussing politics publicly is depressing because then too, like you can have the most calm, rash discussion. Like, and I'm not stating my political opinion, but let's just say you were like, well, I'm pro-choice.
Sure.
People won't come at you and be like, okay, well, why are you pro-choice? What makes you want to go that way? They just instantly come out. So you want to kill babies. So you're, and you're like, oh, whoa, hold on, wait. Do you want to hear my side? I mean, I didn't just say that. And it might be because I've met people who will tell you they're in the middle. They don't really have an opinion on the abortion because they don't like the idea of killing a child, but they also are not going to tell a rape victim that you have to carry this child to term or a child that could, that could pose a threat to the mother when the doctors say, hey, we need to terminate this baby because we don't know that you can have it. It might kill you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, to look at that person and be like, well, I'm sorry, this is God's will. You got to carry that baby. Like, I'm not, so it's, but you wouldn't know that because if they were like, well, I'm pro-choice. And then it's like, oh, you want to kill babies. You didn't even listen to their side. So that's what I mean when I say politics are, and I'm not going on a abortion rant. I'm not talking about my views. I'm just talking about interactions I've seen.
Because the last thing you want is to go back like in the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever when you had like quacks with backroom abortion clinics,
right?
Sticking coat hangers up, hoo-ha's. I mean, we definitely don't want to go back to that, but. And then, did you hear that doctor that went before Congress and like described talking
about the lady doctor?
No, this was a dude. He was just describing a second trimester abortion the same way that like Gordon Ramsay describes cutting a chicken up. He's like, he had the tongs with the teeth and he's like, first you pull off the legs, you twist and you pull them out, and then you get into the torso and you start raking out guts and ribs and
just no sensitivity to it whatsoever.
And then he's like, you grab onto something, feels kind of like a walnut. That would be the skull. And
they crush that, right?
Yeah, he's like, first you get the brains out, then you start picking out bits of skull like shrapnel. And he's just talking, like I said, he's just talking like a chef talking about putting together.
You want to be like, dude, pizza. if you're trying to promote why abortion is necessary, you're not doing a good job of convincing. And that's the thing too. It's never about trying to show someone your side of things. It's always trying to show them why they're wrong and why you're right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like he can't. Again, man. It's politics. And that's why we say we'll never discuss like our political views on the podcast because you couldn't come out and say like, oh, I support this because people wouldn't comment and go, that's interesting. I actually support the opposite because blah, 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 blah. What they would do is call you a name or tell you you're stupid or, whatever, because all of these internet rock stars who hide behind a screen. They'll say, whatever comes to mind because they don't think there's any repercussions. But we know where you live.
And that doctor I saw before Congress, I don't I just saw him describing the procedure. I don't know what exactly he was there for, what side he was on. I'm guessing he was just called in just as like a technical expert to explain. I don't know.
You know what I liked seeing?
Who called him or what was up?
Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see his little thing where he went before Congress when it was with the whole censorship and everything?
No, I never saw it.
It was so great because it was showing how that like small town conservative mindset will mislead the hell out of you because he went, if you haven't watched it, it's old as dirt. This came out like long time ago. He was a young fella. I don't even think he was 30 at this point.
Oh, man.
But he goes before Congress or whatever, and I think it was Congress, maybe I'm wrong, but he's talking about, like the censorship, and he reads off the misconceptions that people have said on the local news about them, about like they're devil worshipers, about they promote sexuality, and they curse a lot. And he goes down the list and is like, none of our records have curse, we don't curse in our records. Two, and he says, like, I was raised Catholic or Christian, whatever. He's like, I'm not a Satanist. We've never promoted any form of Satanism in our music at all. And like just goes down the list of like, kind of the danger of censorship. Like, you just, I don't know, man. And that's my other problem is we base laws off of things we don't like. Mm-hmm. I don't like weed. Weed's bad for you. Okay, well then don't make it a national law that I can't do something that you don't like. Just don't smoke weed.
Yeah, well, that had a lot to do with a lot of stuff.
Oh man, I watched Adam Ruins Everything on it, and it is insane. Well, I watched a video where this girl was reacting to something, and she's screaming in the street, and it was some kind of like, I guess she was either far left or far right, whichever side of the thing she was on, she was very far in that direction. Not a good representation for either. But she's screaming and yelling and throwing herself around. And what the idiot recording the tape says is, this is why I'll never be for the legalization of marijuana. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you, sir, clearly have never smoked marijuana because if I throw myself anywhere, it's going to be on the couch to go to sleep.
Yeah,
because
it's crazy. Even
and I'm not saying I smoke it a lot. I'm just saying you obviously don't have any experience with it, and that's the problem. People that don't know what they're talking about make laws about things.
Yeah, man. Even our local news guy the other day, he called THC hallucinogenic, and I'm just like, dude.
If you're hallucinating, I don't think it's straight up THC that you're taking. Yeah,
I don't know what you're smoking, but no, man. That whole thing. Legalizing marijuana back in the day would have hurt the timber industry. Anybody, because hemp can replace.
It actually has some racist undertones. I don't know if you call them undertones, but it has. Yeah, right. It has like some racial issues in there too.
They were straight up saying that smoking marijuana makes Mexicans rape white women.
Right.
It's
crazy. So sad that we were at a point in society where that was the way you swayed people, just with stupid logic like that. That's. Like I said, it's just, and I've always been that way, and I won't get too much into my political views, but I've always been kind of, I'm not going to say extreme, but like I don't believe in the government telling you what to do and not do in your life. I think the government's there to lay down some laws to keep everybody safe, but at the end of the day, I don't want the government telling me I have to wear my seatbelt to keep myself safe. I can't smoke this or put this in my body, because I understand the need to make things like bath salts illegal because multiple cases involve people running out and jumping on cars and eating people's faces and doing. I get that you could pose a threat to someone else. When is the last time someone smoked weed and like broke into your house and committed this crazy? You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know, man. Like I saw in some towns or some places where they had banned any sodas over 16 ounces. Like that was New York. It's not your place to tell me if I want to, But at the same time, I think that if I do just sit around, smoke pot, and drink a lot of sodas and get fat and useless, it's also on the other end, on the other side of the coin, it's not the government's job to take care of me. You know what I mean?
Man. When it comes
I just don't like being regulated.
Like marijuana, psilocybin, DMT, I think we should have sovereignty over our own consciousness.
Right.
Now, if you do something, just like drinking, if you do something illegal while on drugs,
then you're held responsible.
Yeah, but I think if I'm walking down the street today and a cop catches me with I don't even know what you'd call a dime bag of heroin, I don't think I should be arrested for something I have on me. If
I just have been, and some people, I'll talk to about that, and they'll be like, "That's ridiculous. It has this effect." I'm like, dude, but you're not getting the point I'm making. The point I'm making is not whether or not these drugs are bad for you. Alcohol is terrible. I mean, it depends. It's in moderation too. I mean, like alcohol. I mean, alcohol is not that bad for you if you don't abuse it. I've actually had doctors tell me like having a drink every day or every other day is actually good for your kidneys. I mean, now having 6 to 12 of those a day is not good for your kidneys and your liver. But it's like I'm not arguing whether or not they can be bad for you. What I'm arguing about is you are a person that wants to, that should be able to make your own decisions. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I love America. I have an American flag in my yard. Some people will read into this as I'm saying that like, oh, Americans, we aren't truly free. No, I love America. I'm just saying I believe in your right to choose what you do and don't put in your body.
I can take $20 and go to the liquor store and get enough to kill me.
Oh, yeah.
$20. If I wanted to, I could drink enough to actually die. But, like I said, I think you should have sovereignty over your own mind. And if you're driving around stoned and you're posing a threat, yeah, you should be arrested for that. But you shouldn't be arrested just for having something. I mean,
if you don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just all about sovereignty of your own consciousness.
I mean, half the crap we put in our bodies when we eat.
Yeah, man.
Look at like cancer. It's gotten to the point almost to where now you're like, I wonder what kind of cancer is going to kill me when I get older.
Yeah, man. Did you see that movie a long time ago, Thank You for Smoking?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're grilling dude up there about the effects of cigarette smoke, and he tells it was William H. Macy, the representative from Wisconsin. Way more people die from heart disease. It's your Vermont cheddar or whatever the fuck it was that's killing people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean...
Man, we didn't really get, that's really the only political opinions we've given today is just that we both feel like, you should be able to make a choice about what you do. You have free will. You decide, and again, if you do decide to be a drug addict who does nothing with your life and you commit crimes to get those drugs, then you should be arrested. But
absolutely.
But but I don't know, but to say like, oh, well, if you, heroin addicts or crackheads will attack people. They'll run the streets and it'll be madness. They'll be attacking people to get their fix. I mean, you don't think that I've seen alcoholics that will, I've seen homeless people that would all but attack you to get money to go to the liquor store and buy booze.
Dude, I've known crackheads that work more than you and I work in like a month. They put that kind of work into a day just because they're out there trying to get just enough money to get that rock at the end of the day.
And keep in mind, this is coming from people that now that I feel like I need to shatter this. It's probably like, oh, these guys do a lot of drugs. We don't. We're just talking about the freedom to choose what you do and don't do.
I know crackheads that will literally, they'll do yard work, construction stuff all day long.
If anything, it motivates them.
Yeah.
They need that cheddar.
Just to get that, just to be able to buy that rock at the end of the day. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I mean, I would certainly never smoke crack, but I'm just saying, it does get painted with a certain brush.
I'm doing drugs right now. I'm drinking a hot cup of coffee.
Some coffee.
Drugs. But no, and just on that, remember, that's before you rush to the comment section with something mean or opposing. It's just our opinion. I mean, if you believe in the illegalization of drugs, hey, that's yours. I'm sure you've got a decent argument for it. But
we're starting a discussion. Say what you want to say, and we'll address it.
We try to keep some stuff to ourselves, but when you're having a random discussion, it's hard to censor yourself. But so far, without it being a fake conversation,
right?
We getting real with y'all.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to hear other people's thoughts and opinions. Because I also know people who have let drugs completely turn them into just self-destructive assholes.
Oh, absolutely.
And, stealing air conditioners out of people's windows and grabbing grandma's purse. I've seen both sides of it. And more times.
And that's the thing. They're illegal, but people are still doing all of this to get to them. So the argument of like, oh, well, you legalize them and this is the bad effects. Well, they're doing that anyways.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get drugs. I mean, that's the, you know what I mean? Like, that's not hard. The war on drugs is not doing anything except for elevating drug use. Just like, what was it? They said studies prove that kids went through the DARE program were far more likely to do drugs than kids that didn't.
Yeah.
The war on drugs is really, seriously, do your research. It's just a political platform is all it is. Like, there's really no heart behind it or any like, it's all politically motivated to get people elected. Like, what was it, Nixon? Nixon was big on the war on drugs, and that was kind of like Trump's wall is one of his platforms. it's just a platform that, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Anyways, I'm not going to get into politics because I really don't know enough to argue politics, and somebody will probably tear me up in the comment section.
Yeah,
but
let them tear away. But I mean, not just to mention, I mean, all the money the government, and, think about all the drug money, the drugs they seize. I mean, a lot of times the CIA is bringing these drugs into the country, I mean,
and then you got people that are serving, prison is just a business.
Right.
It's supposed to have been, to reform criminals, and criminals aren't getting reformed. And then, I mean, you got people that go in, they make a mistake, and I'm not making excuses for criminals here, but I mean, a guy sells a little weed, make a little extra money, and then, you got him locked up forever. And I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, what was it? I read something that said, like, per capita, we have more prisoners than, like, any other country.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have more people incarcerated than North Korea does.
And it's like,
per capita, of course.
Right. And it's like, dude, like, I mean, I don't know, man. I understand, like, the rapists and the murderers and the violent people. Absolutely, they need to be, put away. They're a threat. But I mean, Billy Bob down the street got busted for selling a dime bag of weed. Now he's sitting in jail. I mean, it's
wild, man.
There's worse things going on in the world right now.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to tell that state trooper that pulled me over the other day for a expired inspection sticker.
Did you get a ticket?
Yeah, I got a ticket, but I'm just like, I'm like, dude, my primary vehicle's in the shop. It was unexpected. My water pump went out. The only reason
state trooper's going to give you a ticket.
Oh yeah, he's going to.
That's what I've always said. Small town cops I like because small town cops seem to be. I think state troopers have more the military mindset of just like, they have a job to do and they're going to do it. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw where that state trooper got shot and killed the other day.
I don't know.
I don't know if anybody that would have known him would be listening to the podcast, but thoughts, prayers, everything to his family. That's awful. But state troopers seem to be much more of like the military. Every time I've been pulled over by a state trooper, almost, I think, if not every time, I've gotten a ticket. Whereas I've had a local town cop pull me over, and I'll never forget how nice he was. He's like, "Evening, man. How you doing?" And I was like, "I'm good. How are you?" He's like, "I'm good. I pulled you over because you got a tail light out. Did you know that you had one out?" And I was like, "No, sir." And then he made the comment, "Well, of course, how would you? Because when are you behind your vehicle when it's running, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't." He was like, "If you don't mind, step out of the vehicle." And I thought I was about to get arrested. And he was like, "I just wanted to show you so I'm not just trying to pull you over for." And he showed me, and he was like, You haven't been pulled over for this?" And I said, "No, sir." I said, "I'll go to AutoZone right now and buy a bulb." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, man. I know that. How are you supposed to know unless I let you know?" So he's like, "I'll tell you what, man. I'm gonna let you run to the, go on and get the bulb, and I'm not gonna give you a ticket. But if I catch you out with it again, I'm gonna have to write you up." And I was like, "That's so cool. Like, he's doing his job. Like, he's like, hey, man, heads up, you got a tail light out." I got it. I went straight to AutoZone, bought a bulb, but then I get pulled over by a state trooper for something like that, and it's just straight up. He's like writing the ticket as he walks up, license and registration.
Business, man, they are all business.
I don't think I've had many warnings. I got it when I was younger. I got possession of alcohol under the age of 21 from a state trooper, and I didn't even have the alcohol on me. It was just on my breath.
Yeah, man, I've had one of those. I
remember he was like, well, I got pulled. I was in a car that was doing 112 or something, and he's like, he comes to the window like gun drawn and everything, which we didn't run from him. I was surprised he had a gun drawn. I mean, we just obviously were kids speeding, but he come up with his gun drawn. It's like, hands off the vehicle. I'm like, oh God.
You never know.
Then he's like, makes him step out the car, and he's like, "Can you step out the car?" And part of me wanted to be an ass and be like, "Why? I wasn't driving. Why do I have to step out of the vehicle?" But you just comply with officers. I mean, it always goes easier if you just comply. So I stepped out, and he's like, "You been drinking tonight?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I had a few, but that's why I had him driving." Because my buddy was driving my car, and my car was all souped up and everything, and he had his girlfriend and her sister in the back, and he's like, "You mind if I kick it?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was being responsible by letting him drive because I had been drinking, and I just thought kick it meant like through first or second gear, like just show him like take off and have him go, damn. And maybe it's because I was drunk. Next thing I know, I'm like, dude, slow the fuck down, man. Right. And then like we go by a cop, and I'm just like, well, there you go. But yeah, state troopers, I always find I'm going to get a ticket versus like town and county cops seem to be a little bit more easygoing. They don't. I mean, if you do a bad crime, they're going to arrest you. But I mean, they're more lenient on things like
and a lot of times you'll get one like fresh out of the academy that's just so gung ho. He's out there wanting to write tickets. So
I met the coolest cop I've ever known, man. I worked at a Subway, and again, a small town. You see a lot of these cops every day, and cops got like a 15% or 50%. I can't remember. They got a discount at Subway. So naturally cops, as I would, they go, where they get the discounts. And it was this young cop, and he had glasses. I remember he was probably younger than I am now, but he would come in, and I was only like 16 at the time, 17, and he was always so nice. Like he's always, would be one of the few people that would be like, "How are you doing today?" And asked me like, "You in school? What you doing?" Blah 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 blah. So then, like, I remember one night my car, it had expired inspection and expired registration. Like, it had a lot wrong with it, but I really was just driving it to work and back. Like, that was it. I wasn't going around town. I left work one night and I got going home and I saw the blue lights and it was actually him pulling me over. And he walked up and he was like, "Justin, what are you doing in a car with all the expired registration?" He looked up, he said, "Expired inspection sticker. What are you doing, man?" I said, "Dude, I know it's illegal, but I don't have any other way to work. Like, this is and I was like, "I've got an appointment to put it in the shop on Friday, but I don't." And he's like, "Man, you really shouldn't be on the road with this." He said, "But where do you live?" And I was like, I told him, and I was whatever. So I guess he deduced that I was on my way home. And he's like, I was in my uniform and everything. He's like, "Man, look," and he wrote a little note with his name and everything. Was like, I'm gonna let you go, but don't drive this again. If anybody pulls you over between here and home, give them this. Let them know that they can reach out to me, that I stopped you. You got a warning. Just was so nice. And I was like, man, see, like, there aren't all bad cops. Some cops suck, but some cops are actually just decent people. He was a super nice guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, state troopers always give me tickets. They're always the ones I'm scared of, like 1 second away from kicking my ass, too.
Yeah, man.
Because they're just intense.
They look like drill sergeants. Yeah.
Town cops just come up strolling, kind of swagger to them. "How we doing today?" And then whatever, a state trooper, license and registration. And you're like, oh, God, please do not reach for anything fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story of how I had a cop draw a gun on me. Well, actually, he was drawing it on the driver, but if he would have shot him, he probably would have shot me too. So.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, wow, we got into some deep discussion today. Normally we're talking about JP's sexual habits and just other stuff. But
we can get into that too.
Let's not. It's time to wrap this thing up.
Okay.
Keep in mind, as we said, anything that we've said, some of it's opinion-based. Some of it was just, that's the point of this podcast. We delve into just random discussions. These are conversations that we honestly would be having now even without the mics. It's just talking. So, please... Don't scorch us too bad. Well, it's scorch away. It's the internet. Obviously, if you've got that much going on in your life that you need to, be mean in the comments section, you got to blow off steam. You just do what you got to do. But we appreciate you listening. Hit that subscribe button for more podcasts. Not all of our podcasts are this type of conversation. Again, we talk about the Walking Dead show. We talk about the Walking Dead comic. Some conspiracy stuff, video games. We do a little bit of everything. I really wanted to do a Resident Evil 2 review. And I never got around to doing it, and now there's a million out. Everybody knows it's awesome, so there's no point. But those are the kind of things we want to get into. So I want to check out some haunted houses. Just a lot that we want to do on this channel, but just hit that subscribe button to stay connected. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you tomorrow for both Mail Call and The Walking Dead. Do you remember what issue number it is?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, man.
Whatever issue it is, we're going to talk about it tomorrow.
Yep.
But I'm Justin.
Yep, and I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.
Yeah.